There were some nice sundresses of my grandmother's. I really liked them because it just had that distinctive smell to it. It was like a rose perfume, very gentle, but wonderfully fragrant. Its aroma just wafted around me, like being in the middle of a rose garden on a spring day. The smell was sweet and hypnotic. I drifted away like Dorothy and her friends in the middle of the poppy fields of Wizard of Oz. A few minutes later, I woke a bit chilled and remembered that the window was still open. So I put on the fur coat and I went over to shut it. Before I closed it, I thought I would have one more cigarette. As I smoked, I made sure it all went out the window. I had to stick my head out to do this. I began to daydream. I was pretending that I was this princess in a fairy tale, stuck in her tower, awaiting a beautiful prince to come rescue her. All of a sudden, I heard a car. I looked down quickly, and there was my dad pulling into the driveway. He was looking up, squinting his eyes at me, trying to focus on who he was seeing. Oh my God, I said to myself, he saw me. Hurriedly, I rushed to try and shut the window, but it was stuck. The harder I tried, the less it moved. My heart began to race like a roaring train passing by while you're standing next to the tracks. I heard the kitchen door open and close. Frantically, I leapt to the other side of the room and into a walk-in closet. Inside, there were two smaller doors hiding two more storage shelves. I was still small enough to crawl inside and close those storage doors behind me. I made myself into this little ball, cowered with fear. I was awaiting and shaking, awaiting the impending doom. After what seemed to be an eternity, the attic door opened. "Who's up there?" my dad yelled. Silence. "Did you hear me? I saw you when I was coming up the driveway. Who's up there?" Again, I was silent. Then I heard a loud bang. "Whack!" Dad said. "I have a baseball bat and I'm not afraid to come and find you and use it." I still made nary a noise. Slowly, he walked up the staircase. I could hear the squeaking of the wood between each deliberate movement as he climbed ever closer to the top of the stairs. Every step squealed an eerie warning, shooting through me like an arrow shot at close range. With each sound, I crouched even smaller into my hiding place. Dad entered the room and I heard him say, "What the fuck?" Then there was the sound of him struggling to close the window. Wham! It suddenly slammed shut. "Shit," my dad said. I almost jumped when I heard the noise, and I began to hold my breath for fear that he could hear me. I can only imagine this part, but I think he began to put two and two together. He found the ashtray, and he saw the clothes strewn all over the room, and there was this interminable silence that followed. I smelled smoke. He lit a cigarette. Then he called out again, "Who's up here? I saw you in the window, and I know that you were smoking. Where are you?" The door to the closet opened. I jumped a bit, and I took another deep breath. I began to hyperventilate. He looked around, and I heard nothing. "Okay," he said. "I guess no one's in here then." As I was slowly letting out my breath, a bright light blinded my eyes. Dad had flown open the doors concealing me, and I began to cry. My hands were protecting my face as I cowered into the fearful crouch. "Please, Dad, please, please don't hit me, please don't hit me." Over and over I cried this out. Then my father said, "Who is it? Danny? Come out where I can see you." I continued to cry and wail. "No, Dad, no, you're going to belt me. I can't let you see me." A moment of quiet followed. My father's voice took the quiet, gentler tone I liked so much. "Come out here, Danny. I won't hit you." I still did not move until he softly touched me and said, "Come out here. It's okay." I moved into the light of the room and he looked down at me. I had red lipstick smeared all over my face, my grandmother's dress on, my mom's fur coat draped all over me. Dad's face had this strange and puzzling look on it. "What are you doing in that get-up of women's clothes?" he asked. I lost it right then and there. I just plopped on the floor and began spewing out words as if verbally puking a long-written secret. I don't know why I'm doing it, Dad. I don't know why." More tears and hiccup breathing. My brain tells me that I'm a girl. I felt like this ever since I was little. I don't know why. I know I was born a boy, but God makes me think I'm a girl." Almost out of breath now and continuously crying, I kept talking. If I knew, I would tell you, but please, Dad, please don't spank me, please. As I sat there crying, I looked at my father. He had this blank and confused look on his face. I had never seen him so stunned. I can only imagine what he was thinking, but it was clear to me he did not know what to do or what to say. Finally, he calmly reached down and said, "Get up." I got to my feet and I looked up at him. He looked down and said, "Danny, go downstairs, take those clothes off and get to the bathroom and clean yourself up. And go put your jammies on and get into bed. I'll come in and check on you later." I let my breath out with great relief. Dad was not going to hit me. As I began to start down the stairs, I turned back and I looked at my father. He still had that puzzled look on his face, but when he caught my eye, he forced a smile. "It's okay, Danny. We'll talk later." Slowly, I went towards the steps, then rushed back and grabbed my dad, hugging him tightly. I looked up and smiled at him between my tears. "I love you, Dad," I said. At that moment, I scurried away. I went downstairs and I began to run a bath. Although I was still crying, I was starting to stop now. I looked in the mirror and cleaned my face. There, staring back at me, was the little boy. Danielle had vanished. I was left to face the music without her. Slowly, I got into the hot tub and relaxed a bit. Took some deep breaths while coming down. I started to think Dad seemed so stunned and confused. Maybe he'll want to talk more about it. The thought of this was usually very scary. But now, I felt I could look forward to it. Perhaps he'll listen where Mom didn't years ago. But the talk never came. About 20 minutes later, I dried off, put my jammies on, and went to bed. I fell asleep and woke up to my dad yelling, "Dinner's ready." I went downstairs and we all had dinner. Later that night, my mother and father were discussing me. I had snuck close to the room where they were sitting watching television. They began to discuss the Saturday afternoon when I was cross-dressing. My father said he was really worried about me. Mom told him not to be too concerned because she had spoken already with the doctor, our pediatrician, and said that boys my age often experimented when they reached puberty, and there was really nothing to worry about. My dad didn't buy it. You should see the look on his face, Pat. He was really scared. He kept telling me God makes him think he's a little girl. I almost believed him. He seemed so sincere. "Now, Bill," my mom said, "Danny used to tell me that all the time. He thought he was a little girl when he was younger, but I paid no attention. I didn't tell you because I didn't think it was important. I think he was just jealous of all the attention I gave Debbie and Maureen. He'll be fine. He'll grow out of it, just like the doctor said." Dad replied, "I hope so, Dad." "But do you think it's caused by anything I did or didn't do with him? The only time we really spend together is when I take him to Syracuse to see the eye doctor." "No, Bill, don't be silly," my mom said. "Danny has always wanted attention. He'll be fine. By the way, have you told him the facts of life yet?" My dad spoke. "I tried last week when we were coming home from the store, but he said he already knew it all. I wonder if he does. I know he's expecting to talk to me sometime about dressing up like a girl. Maybe we could do it with our doctor sometime." "Good idea," said Mom. "Now let's watch the end of the movie." Slowly, I snuck back up the stairs and crawled into bed, and I kept thinking that talking to the doctor with my parents might help. At this point in my life, I was ready to leave Danielle behind if possible. After all, I had the body of a boy, so why couldn't I just be a normal boy? That would make life so much easier. However, this is not how things worked out. 2 days later, on March 3rd, 1966, my father dropped dead of a heart attack. Our talk would never happen. We would never see the doctor. My heart was broken, first time in my life. I was devastated by his death. I would never be the same after it. I thought he was so ashamed of me because he had a son who wanted to be a girl. His heart just gave out. For years, I carried this guilt around with me. I became so ashamed of who I was from then on. I vowed I would never, from that day forward, try to be anything but a boy. I was determined somehow, some way, to get Danielle out of my life. At his funeral, standing in the icy dirt of my father's gravesite. Through a penetrating and chilling March wind, I watched them lower his casket into the ground. Tears welled up into my eyes. I told myself, no one will ever see me cry. I will stay strong and never show weakness. I look back now, and I wish that I could have just wailed out in the streets of anger and sorrow. That was not who I was, though. By age 12, I was beginning to hold more and more of it in me. My existence as Danielle, locked in me, inside me, the secret I was. So, a little view into the mind of what it's like to grow up, and to have the mind of one gender and the body of another. And everything that happened to me in my life from then on, I tried to run away from who I was. And it wasn't until after many years that I got some clarity and realized it's always okay to be who you are. And if my book can help anyone like me in any way, then it's a success. It helps just one person.